everybody. Let's start so we keep on time. It's my great pleasure to introduce the Jacob Fabrikant Award of the ISRS Society. The Fabrikant Award has been awarded since the beginning of the society. It's awarded every 2 years to an individual or individuals who are members of the ISRS. So if one day you want to get the award, become a member, and that have made long-standing and significant contribution to the field of radiosurgery. You see that it started in 1995 up to the last Congress in Milan. And it's my great pleasure to introduce today Professor Antonio de Sales, who is the Jacob Fabrikant Awardee 2024, and that will give us a lecture called The Past We Know, How Will Be the Radiosurgery Future. So first of all, you get a certificate, a diploma. And you also get the award. Okay, well, it really is a moment of a lot of happiness, and an award called for gratitude, recognition, and reflections for the future. Looking what you did in the past, and let's see if I still have the same speed to go to the future. I think I do. I retired in 2014. And I keep on working harder than I used to work at UCLA. So it has been a great time and a great life, a second life. We all have the right now because you survive a little bit longer than the other people did in the past. I was able to get a wonderful group of people to work with me, and from who I have to be very grateful. Not only the group at UCLA, we have a wonderful team now. In Brazil, that's way larger than the one we had at UCLA. We keep on getting people together. Some people you have to be very thankful. Just in the beginning, Alessandra, she put me straight to work, and that's good. Tim Solberg, Paul Medin, Christian Saraiva, so they were the physicists that helped with me in radiosurgery over the years. We did get a group together, a group of doctors throughout Brazil, most of them trained with me at UCLA or in Brazil since I arrived there. The family, the company that worked with me and was very supportive over the years with my ideas. The patients, their families, that also I have to thank the trust they had on me, and the new team that we have at our Gamma Knife icon in Brasilia, and also a cyber knife in São Paulo. And we still use linear accelerators, and these machines are all wonderful, and we indicate each one of them for the proper disease now that we use all of them and learn about all of them. Well, I made the list. You know, I'm standing in the shoulders of them. You know, those are my colleagues. Since the beginning there, I knew all these people. I came to every single ISRS since it started in Pittsburgh, and has always been a pleasure, and it's like coming every 2 years to see a member of the family. Neurosapiens, Alessandra is the director. She tells me what to do here, and I keep on working, and the group that works with us, we meet every other week to discuss all the cases throughout Brazil. Well, the awardees that wrote a paper that I could read so I could learn how to do this lecture, to the literature to learn, and those people really helped me. I hope I'm not repeating much what they already did and wrote. They were all very important people in our lives. My life, Bill Freeman, Frank Bova, and Jay Lofer, that I learned that's a late Jay Lofer today from Dennis Riff. They helped me with the first linear accelerator so I could make it precise enough to treat any diseases, the functional diseases, for example. Well, Ian Paddock came to my life more in the end, since I started to use the gamma knife about 10 years ago. And Ian Paddock has been a friend at ISRS. I was his vice, so I didn't do anything. He was my vice. So I didn't need to do anything because he did all my job, and then he became the president. I was only the past president, so I didn't have to do very much because he did everything. And he keep on working way more than I do. Well, family is important, and you see here an important family for all of us, for radiosurgery. They put radiosurgery together. Lori Lattinen, who was my professor, said that this was really the genius, and she was really the business person. So the lecta that we know was her work, and the gamma knife we know, and the frames we know, and everything that Lexcel put together, that you know that this is called Lexcel in the operating room. They did together, and always with very fine work in every tool they produced. Well, I'm here grateful to Fabrikant Award. I met him at Harvard University. At that time, I was working the proton beam, and he was invited to talk about the helium beam that was in Berkeley. When he passed away, his wife continued. He went early, 65 years old, when he went, and she lasted and put his name in the map talking about this. She was more famous than him because she was an epidemiologist and he was a radiation oncologist. So she had much more disease to deal with. She became famous with the dengue in Mexico, and he became famous and went to support the United States because of the disaster that happened at that time in Pennsylvania with atomic energy. Was the accident in 3 Mile Island in 1979. Well, I came to learn radiosurgery with the proton beam. I came with Dr. Lexcel, who is almost a forgotten person in our field and shouldn't be. He did quite a bit of work. When I was president, I tried to make a Lexcel award, but the family didn't want to help on that. In any event, here we have 38 years where I learned the basics of radiosurgery and stereotactic radiotherapy. The team was large there. We were doing intensity modulation then, which was in the 80s. This became everyday work in radiation oncology in the 90s and 2000s. So we were way ahead of the game here. We are modulating the proton beam with water, the same way we modulate the ultrasound today. Dr. Kjellberg was a student of Dr. Lexcel. And we see that I was fortunate enough to pass through since the pneumoencephalography until what we have today, which is amazing in my lifetime what happened with the imaging of the brain. We really moved a century very fast. And I made it, I had to believe on it. So I did that in the laboratory, and then we did that treating our patients, and then bringing also functional imaging together to treat the patients. Well, fractionation. Fractionation, in 1993, we published our first paper comparing single dose with fractions for metastasis. This was at the time of the meeting in Stockholm. And at that time, we were using the stereo adapter with who I called my professor and was my professor for 2 years in Sweden, and he's also an inspiration in the treatment of psychiatric patients. I recommend his book to be read. And I went to see the Northern Lights there, which is, they are very proud of it, in New Mill. When I arrived at UCLA, we had already a gamma knife. It was the first gamma knife in the United States. That gamma knife came in 1981. It was donated by Dr. Lexell, who was a good businessman to UCLA, not only a genius because if it was made in 1968, you can imagine in 81 there was no cobalt anymore. So UCLA got it, and then they got it and they carry it to the United States for $1 million. That's what they used to say to me. And Electa bought it back for $150,000, was a good deal, and brought back to Stockholm for the museum. Well, I continue my marathon with machines. You know, I always thought, I think I learned that with Lexell, that you do new things, you see it once, whoa, that's interesting, you see it twice. If you see it twice, it's true, it happened twice, so you publish it. And you let your people without imagination to do all the statistics necessary and manipulate the numbers so that things get the way they should be. And this has been done very nicely with radiosurgery. We can really trust these machines. All of them are very good. And now we have the new kid on the block with John Adler. That was one of the awardees. The last it was in Rio de Janeiro, and he got it, and he presented his ZAP machine. Well, collimators, I have been through all of them, and multi-leaf became a great part of my work at UCLA, and that was very nice to be able to develop these and treat all kinds of tumors with it. And we summarized this in this book, doses and everything that is necessary to treat the patients with multi-leaf collimators, and also with precision of the linear accelerator using the imaging, very similar with what John Adler had done with the CyberKnife. It became present in the linear accelerator at UCLA. And when I start to use the gamma knife, I have to be very grateful to Roman. Roman brought his book, a very well-written book, and with a new collimator that I took from the cover of his book. And I don't want to comment much on that because we have a lot of experts, and I don't want to say anything wrong. Well, my life was difficult at this moment at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, MCV, Medical College of Virginia, where I had an accident there with radiation. I was doing a blood flow in the ICU in patients with head injury. That's what I went to study there, biophysics. And the machine that collects all the expiration air blew up in the ICU. It blew up, all that xenon went to all the patients. And I got very nervous with that, you can imagine. And I called the safety, and came a lady. I ran to the bathroom. I stayed quiet there. I didn't know what was going to happen. And she came with a vacuum cleaner, because the xenon goes down to the floor, and she sucked everything up, and there was the Geiger counter was mute. She did the job, nothing happened, but I learned that with this thing that we don't see that's called radiation, you should not take it lightly. And at that time, 1987, was when I was defending my PhD on safety and head injury. Happened this problem at my hometown, Goiânia. At that time, it was about 500,000 people. There was a cesium that was left there. This is the city now. And they put the kids to play with the radioactive material. And 230 people died because of intoxication with radiation. Well, I became also very preoccupied with the LINAC radiosurgery. When you do something and you are studying at a university with physicists that work and they are doing their PhD, they are very careful with everything they do in terms of precision. When it goes to the public in general, large volumes of patients, it starts to be dangerous to use a machine that's not dedicated. We had a dedicated linear accelerator then. It was the Novalis, and there was some death related to treating trigeminal neuralgia inadequately because the jaws of the linear accelerator didn't close, so this came in the New York Times. There were 3 people that were hurt, and I was called to be the expert because I was the one publishing about this at that time. Well, that led me, when I came to ISRS, and I was in the administration together with Ian Paddock, I said, we have to do certification to improve quality of radiosurgery with Linux or everything else throughout the world. And then here again, I'm very thankful to the physicists. They have been my companion through life, all of them, marvelous people, hardworking people that kept me out of trouble throughout the years that passed by. And also learning a lot with our radiation oncologists about what radiation does with the tissue. And here that I think that the future lies. We know now that we can engineer the DNA, the RNA. That's how we survived the COVID problem. And why we don't do this with radiation? If you look at the other energies that use radio frequency, cryo, laser, microwave, high-intensity focused ultrasound, the new kid on the block that is being used since the 50s, last century, they just destroy the tissue, right? It's a high energy for destruction. Radiosurgery started to be to treat functional diseases. At that time, we believed in destroying pieces of tissue and very small with radiation. But now I think things have changed. I think we can modify molecules of DNA, RNA, and that we did, we published in 2001 how we found out that that was really quite interesting and possible. Experimentally, we used a 3-millimeter collimator that we couldn't use at that time because the physicists said that you couldn't measure it, and until today, I think it's not an easy task. And the old belief that we just break and destroy the DNA, I think we can modify it. We can, if we learn enough. And in the future, if we study this, we tried an NIH grant for that, but it was too early for people to understand that we can modulate enough with radiation because it's not in the place where they see the lesion that you really are causing the problems. In the periphery, it's in the dose fall off that these things happen. That we start to measure tyrosine hydroxylase, serotonin, JFAP, glutamate. So all these neurotransmitters and precursors of neurotransmitters, such as tyrosine hydroxylase, with immunohistochemical, you can see it, and you can start to think about modifying the brain that is decaying, for instance, in Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease. And as we learn that, we'll be able to do this non-invasively in a very elegant way. And this, it was worth the Nobel Prize in the year 2020 through the pandemic. We almost didn't hear that. But Doudny and Charpentier, they shared the Nobel Prize because they were able to modify a molecule of DNA. And that's what we are proposing here. And we have some evidences through our work in radiosurgery in the past 38 years that happened. For instance, here, we cause a glucose utilization when you do the first dose, and we know that people have seizures if you irradiate very high doses. And then we have the breakdown of the blood-brain barrier, you get this back, and then you get a perfect anatomy later on where you had a low-grade astrocytoma in a girl of 9 years old. And obviously, we get ischemia, and we get the classic Lexell lesion here that is in the literature, and you all have seen this already in the slides of many of us that come to this meeting. Well, I At that time, I heard this for the first time from Dr. Barcia Salorio, who is one of the awardees, the second one of the Fabrikant Award. And I went to control the epilepsy in the animal experimentation with radiation, and we found that we can block all the electrical energy that passes through a cell with 60 gray. We end up to identify that 10 gray is enough to decrease a little bit the seizures. So you don't need to cause necrosis to arrive to that, but you do have completely stopped up of seizures if you follow the animal long enough with 40 gray. Radioimmunomodulation is a reality. You know, we know that from the experimental work we did with the Rete mirabile, where you modify the endothelium, you modify the layers of the vessel, and you make it produce collagen type 4, and you not only you obstruct because you are denuding the endothelium, but also accumulating collagen, you are protecting the AVM. So it is believed, at least at this point, that you can treat Spätzle and Martin 4 and 5, and you can really help these people decreasing, in our data, you decrease it to 25% the size of the AVM, and then you can treat that AVM with radiosurgery or even remove it. It will be something to do. And some of them become even embolizable because you isolate not only the feeder, but also the drainage, because you get all the microvasculature away, and this is reported most recently in 2021 with the long-term follow-up. Well, another important position of radiosurgery is in the peripheral nerve. This is very sensitive here. We studied what it happens with the myelin and the Schwann cells, the cells that are outside of the nervous system, and also with the cells that are inside of the nervous system, that is the oligodendroglia. And what we learned from the trigeminal neuralgia work is that if you get into that part, that oligodendroglia, it is the cover of the nerve, you get better results. We do have a little bit more lack of sensibility, but we didn't get, I don't remember of a patient in more than 400 patients that had anesthesia dolorosa. And we look at that very carefully. Dr. Gorgulho studied all our patients, and Dr. Frighetto, that's always here in the first lane, they studied this very carefully. And we always did this treatment right in the root, and we believe that, but it is controversial in the literature. This is what happened in the nerve. This is a peripheral nerve that we did in the animal, just to show that you still have quite a bit of myelin. That's why we have not a complete loss of sensibility in the face, for instance. And obviously that was necessary for us to develop the spine radiosurgery, and you see a tumor going away here inside of the tolerance of the dose. Well, when you go to the thalamus, we can see here that we are developing that more and more in terms of using tractography, and you can see where the lesion is done. You can see the tract going away, and what you left behind is very clear. We can do the thalamotomy quite well. This is a lesion that was too large, and we became a little bit concerned of doing large volumes of this. This is a publication of Dr. Frighetto that's sitting here with us. And obviously, the OCD is something that we have put a lot of work on it. The abscopal effect is another example of what radiation can modulate in terms of liberating immune material so that we can treat the patients tumors at distance. It's not only destruction, but also production of immunomaterial. Well, the physicists are here again. They are always in our lives. They are pure scientists, and because they are pure scientists, they are the ones that discover the things and give us the support for that, quantum energy, and this is past century. And now we are organizing the people for the next century. We are all already using all this in our driving every day with GPS. And here we are seeing what the young people are doing. Dr. Alessandra Gorgulli is educating this fellow, and apparently she's educating him for a neurosurgery career, because if you look at what she did to him, this is the first lecture that Lucas gave. She put his head inside of a box, explained to him X, Y, and Z, and put him to look at the microscope and the computer, and she is making a guy now electronic. You see that I think that he is correct. He's in the game, and he got very good at that. Very precise in the golf and in the sports, and got his medals on it. And we took him to the museum to see the first machine MRI scan that's in the Museum of London, and he's already competing to get to be a neurosurgeon. In my time, 1997, I have 1 minute to go, and we were doing destruction of brain tumors with radio frequency at UCLA inside of the MRI. And we abandoned the technology just because radiosurgery is way better, and this became all very common. At that time, we were thinking of minimally invasive therapy of the brain. This was one of the good sellers book that we wrote. And now, you know, the laser was presented here as an important adjuvant for treatment of tumors. Well, we are unscrambling the brain. And this is happening because of the engineers. It's showing us all the pathways that how we should get there, how we put a lesion in one of this, for instance, here in the limbic system. We are doing a cingulotomy here. We have a poster that you can see the details of that. And to conclude, I would say that in terms of linear accelerators, we covered this very well. We have shown in 2 books, and now we are trying to teach the lay people what we do, because the lay people are the ones that come to the doctor and ask, I want my brain not open with radiosurgery. Thank you.